What if I told you that kites were once weapons of war long before they became symbols of joy in childhood? It's a curious truth. Something so delicate was born not from play, but from strategy, signal, and survival. Over 2,000 years ago, in ancient China, the very first kites took flight. Not in a child's hands, but in the grasp of military minds. This was the Warring States period, from 475 to 221 BC. 7 rival kingdoms battled for control of a fractured world. Innovation wasn't optional, it was survival. Chinese engineers, already masters of mathematics, aerodynamics, and material science, crafted lightweight flying devices. Silk provided the sails, bamboo, the frame. These weren't toys. They were tactical tools called wooden birds in ancient texts. General Han Xin, a brilliant strategist of the Han Dynasty, used kites to measure the distance to enemy strongholds. Others used them to drop messages, unsettle opponents, or signal formations. The wind became a silent messenger, and the sky, once a threat, became a channel for strategy. But perhaps the most remarkable chapter came after the war. As dynasties rose and fell, kites quietly transformed from instruments of battle to emblems of culture. Artisans reimagined the utilitarian forms. Frames became dragons, phoenixes, celestial fish. Color became language. Symbols became flight. No longer bound to war, kites floated over rice paddies, rivers, and rooftops, carrying dreams instead of data. This evolution took centuries. Dynasties like the Tang and Song brought the kite into a new era, one of beauty, belief, and celebration. The Tang Dynasty, 680 to 907 CE, it was a golden age of Chinese art. Kites took on poetic form, filled with Taoist, natural, and folkloric symbols. Each flight was a prayer, a poem in the sky. During the Qingming festival, families flew kites as ritual. Some would even cut the string believing it carried away illness or bad luck. Craftsmanship became regional. In Weifang, dragon kites stretched over 100 feet long. In Tianjin, opera characters flew through the air. Each design told a story. And then the kite spread beyond China. Carried by trade winds and travelers, it reached the Korean peninsula, where new legends took root. Korean Yeon appeared in the 7th century. Legend says General Jim Yusin used a flaming kite to inspire troops. Made of bamboo and hanji paper, Yeon carried prayers skyward cut loose to deliver wishes. From Korea, the kite drifted to Japan, where it was not just reimagined, but weaponized. In feudal Japan, kites took on dramatic new forms. The word for kite, kako, literally means octopus, a nod to their flowing shapes. But kites here weren't only decorative. Some were engineered to lift humans into the air early military surveillance tools. One legend tells of Kakenoki Kinsuk, a 16th century lord who reportedly used a massive kite to hoist spies above enemy walls. The image is cinematic, a scout tethered to a rope, rising silently into the sky with only a blade and information. Whether myth or reality, these man-lifting kites reflect something deeper, humanity's urge to rise higher. Even with primitive tools, eventually Japanese kites settled into more peaceful forms, flown during Boys' Day and Children's Day as symbols of growth and strength. By the 18th century, kites across East Asia had become vessels of culture, celebration, and artistry. As trade expanded, kites followed. Along the Silk Road and maritime channels, they reached new shores. In the Islamic world, translated Chinese texts spread knowledge not just of kite mechanics, but the philosophy of flight. In India, kites were welcomed with fervor, especially during Makar Sankranti, skies filled with colorful, competitive patang kites. Here, kite flying was a sport. Strings were coated in crushed glass to cut rivals' lines, and aerial duel played across rooftops. Arab merchants brought kite knowledge to Europe, where it reached Renaissance minds and changed course. In the West, kites became tools of science. In 1752, Benjamin Franklin launched his legendary kite experiment, attaching a key to prove lightning was a form of electricity. While dangerous and maybe embellished, it set a precedent. Kites could connect sky to science. Inventors like George Cayley used kites to study aerodynamics. Meteorologists sent instruments skyward. Kites became wind-borne laboratories. Even the Wright brothers used kite experiments to shape the future of flight. Despite their scientific value, kites never lost their soul. Around the world, they returned to celebration, ritual, and beauty. Festivals like the Weifang International Kite Festival celebrate generations of craftsmanship with dragons, birds, and futuristic designs. In Japan, teams fly large hexagonal kites, rakaku, in coordinated aerial battles. In Thailand, kite duels between the Chula and Pakpao styles turned sport into cultural theater. In Guatemala, giant kites over 30 feet wide are flown during Dia de los Muertos to honor the spirits of the dead. Materials evolved, from silk and bamboo to mylar and carbon fiber. But many artisans still favor handmade knots and painted sails. That balance between tradition and innovation is what keeps the kite alive. Today, you can buy a cheap stunt kite at a gas station, or commission a handcrafted masterpiece passed down for generations. Fly it for fun in a park or in a temple field as ceremony. Be a child holding string or a master craftsman who's never repeated the same shape. Kites endure because they are endlessly adaptable. And so, what began over 2,000 years ago, woven from silk, bound with bamboo, and carried by wind continues to soar. The kite, born in ancient China, has traveled across geography and time. From battlefield to festival, lab to legend. In China today, the legacy is still alive. In Weifang and Tianjin, craftsmen paint dragon scales by hand. Children race through alleys with tiger-shaped kites. Families tie notes to string sending hopes and farewells into the sky. And all around the world, the ritual lives on. Because a kite is more than paper and string. It is freedom without destination. It is culture in motion. It is memory, art, and innovation in flight. It connects generations. It bridges earth and sky, so the next time you see a kite rise into the blue, remember the generals. The monks, the children, the scientists, and the dreamers. Until next time.